Hello every pony and welcome to Brony FanFics. Today I've got Crisis Equestria for you. I haven't got Crisis Equestria, don't know what that is. Crisis Equestria for you, chapter 20. Hopefully it's not as long as chapter 19 was. Otherwise we'll be here a while, but from what I can see it won't be that long. So, yes, without further ado, let's get to it. So, Crisis Equestria, Chapter 20, Inspiration. The Gryphon waterworks were impressively built, to say the least, though nowadays they didn't do much at all. It was clear that a lot of effort had been put into them in order to make Aeropolis completely self-sufficient. The Ponies had since left the aqueduct system in the northeastern sector of the city, passed through into the pumping and cleaning station, and now stood at the site of the massive reservoir that once supplied the entire city with its water. Centuries of almost no rainfall had long since drained the reservoir levels to their current sorry state, with nothing to show for what once had been a massive Gryphon-made lake, except for scant pools of stagnant water that had yet to evaporate. Though were they allowed another decade or two, they'd likely follow suit. Twilight took full advantage of the situation, using some very basic transmogrification spells to fashion some makeshift canteens out of the nearby defunct reservoir equipment, purifying the water in the dirty pools and filling the canteens to pass around to every pony. Food was not an issue because there wasn't any to be found or had, but at least they'd be well hydrated. Flav took a big gulp from his canteen and gave a great exhale after chugging down to easily 2/3 of the entire thing in one go. Oh wow, thank you Twilight. I can't tell you how much I needed that. It's not a $1 red sandwich, but it's something. Lockwood, following suit, wiped his mouth on his sleeve. I tell you, there's nothing quite like 7 or 8 straight hours of running and flying to make a pony thirsty. All we need now is a little something to eat and we're all set. Anyway, any way of making that happen, Twilight? Glad I could help. Oh, glad I could help, Twilight smiled as she topped off their canteens with some more from the purified pool she'd made. I really wish I could help in the food department though, but transmogrification magic doesn't work that way. Well, technically it could, but then we'd all be eating cupcakes made of metal or dirt or concrete or what have you. TikTok pointed. Yes, well, thanks for the offer. Lockwood blanched, but a literal mud pie doesn't sound too pleasant. If this keeps up, I wouldn't say no to one. We could always ask Pinkie Pie, Flav suggested. I saw her pull out popcorn out of literally nowhere just the other day. I already asked her about that, Twilight rolled her eyes. She reminded me that her power only worked if it was funny or amusing to her or her audience, whoever that is. And that giving us all a bunch of food isn't a joke at all. Rainbow didn't quite like that explanation, so we're gonna have to tough it out. Even her, she was keen to point out. So many rules, Flav crowed. Why can't magic ever be simple? Anyway, I'm not doing the Twilight voice very well. Anyway, it's gonna have to stay that way apparently. Anyway, I'm glad to be out of the ruins myself, Twilight said. Even if the outdoors around here aren't quite as pleasant as I'd like, it's still better than being all cramped up in such a dark place. I really wish the whole area had been like the sanctuary was. Don't we all? Rarity added, using the slightly better light from the outdoors to make sure that her dress was clean. It is truly fascinating, TikTok hummed. To think that all this time, there was a section of the ruins sealed off from normal entry. This pocket dimension technique of theirs was obviously picked up from the Chronomancers. We invented that spell, you know. How the Gryphons managed it without our tools is astounding, though. Well, suffice to say, it was a real learning experience for all of us, Twilight grinned. I'm more than eager than ever to get home and try and find out what kind of magics other ponies from back home possess. I can't wait to see what sorts of things you all can really do. Five nodded. With these sorts of powers, why I doubt that anything could keep us from getting to the itinerary we have set for us, right? That's the idea, Twilight agreed. Still, he sighed, I feel rather like a bit of dead weight. The whole reason I came along in the first place was to keep you all safe, and I've really done a bang-up job of that, haven't I? And now, if all of you have more than enough means to defend yourselves, what use am I? Hey now, come on, buddy, Lockwood chuckled. You'll be fine moral support for everyone, just like me. Oh great, now I'm being compared to you, Flav groaned. And what exactly is wrong with that, Lockwood said with false indignation. Why, I have all sorts of redeeming qualities that more than make up my inability to lend a hoof in combat. Like, for example, my dashing good looks. Flav stared. I'm not even going to dignify that with a response. And you, Lockwood pointed, ignoring the jab. You surely have other things that make you useful. Come on now, be honest. Have you done anything yet to make yourself particularly useful to these girls since we left the city? I should think that apart from showing your support, you haven't exactly done anything that, say, Applejack and Rainbow Dash couldn't do and hasn't done just as well, if not better. And now I can't even do that. Thanks, yes, that makes me feel loads better, Flav grumbled. I didn't mean it like that, Flav, Lockwood hastily defended. I just meant don't feel so bad that our friends can handle themselves now. Because to be honest, I think we're doing just fine on the... No, to be honest, I think they were doing just fine on their own, We're just along for the ride, as it were. Here to keep everybody's spirits up, eh? Which of course Pinkie Pie does just fine, but I digress. Some ponies just upset that a bunch of girls are going to end up being tougher than he is, Tic-Tac laughed, causing Flav to grumble some more and sink to his stomach. I don't think being tough is too fantastic a quality, is it now, Fluttershy? Lockwood asked. Fluttershy, who till now was only half paying attention to the conversation, much too engrossed with watching the little orb that was Ophanim's neutral form circling around her, jumped at the sudden inclusion of herself in the discussion. Well, being tough is one thing, but I don't think it's all that important. A little kindness goes a long way, I think. See, Fluttershy got the right idea. It's all well and good to be rough and tumble pony like yourself, Flav, but some things require a little more of a diplomatic air, Lockwood added with a boasting smile. But that's all pretty unimportant now, isn't it? Our lovely travelling companions all have such wonderful gifts, and we should be happy for them. He turned his attention to Fluttershy fully now, and her orbiting sphere of light. For instance, our dear Fluttershy had made a new friend of our own. Go on, Fluttershy, tell me a little more about this wonderful little companion of yours. Fluttershy had nervously answered. Oh, well, his name is Ophanim, and he is a spirit familiar. Tic-Tac looked at her map and scratched her head. See, now I'm confused again. You keep calling him whatever Ophanim, but my map is calling it Orphan for some reason. Fluttershy shook her head. Oh, but that's not right. That's not his name. Well, that's what it says here. Now granted, I didn't register him. Applejack. Oh, okay, I get it now. Applejack must not have quite understood what his name was. Here, let me change that for you. Fluttershy sighed. I can see why she'd call him that, though. I mean, he is all alone. After all. Oh, he is all alone, after all. And all these spirits, they're kind of like orphans in a way. Well, that's sweet. Well, that's a sweet way of looking at it, darling, Rarity said with a smile. And all the better for you to show such caring for them, yes? Oh, yes, of course, Fluttershy nodded. Oh, I just wish I knew what sort of animal I wanted him to take form of. There are so many choices. Like, I really don't want to have to pick just one. Take as long as you need, Fluttershy. No pony's going to rush you. Lockwood smiled. I wouldn't want to see you tire yourself out over such a small detail. After all, you are feeling a little better now, aren't you? Oh, well, I'm still a little weary, Fluttershy admitted. I can walk and fly just fine, but I get tuckered out easily. Even walking through all those pipes and everything has got me feeling awfully tired. And we don't have that harness anymore either, Lockwood sighed. I do wish we had some way of make this easier on you. I'm sorry, every pony, Fluttershy sniffed. We have to stop for breaks so much, and it's because of... I'll have none of that now, Lockwood said quickly. You're not a burden on any of us. Isn't that right, Rarity? Oh, of course she's not, Rarity agreed. No pony is complaining one little bit about taking more frequent rest breaks. Well, except Rainbow Dash, of course, but she'd complain about taking any breaks at all. Fluttershy smiled. Thank you, Lockwood, Rarity. That means a lot. Don't mention it, Fluttershy. Lockwood laughed. Anything to put your mind at ease. This journey has probably been the hardest on you of all of us, but at least with all your new gifts, that should be a thing of the past, right? Oh, I suppose so. Fluttershy nodded. I still don't quite understand how this all works. TikTok scratched her head. I thought it was weird enough that Starlight's gang all had those superpowers like Rainbow and Piggy keep calling them. And now it turns out you all have them as well. I just find it all very strange. Well, it's as I said, it's just a manifestation of our natural pony magics, Twilight explained. Of course our powers are more potent because of our connections with the elements of harmony, and the theory is that Starlight's gang is somehow affiliated with Nihila in some fashion, so that's where they got their powers. I get all that, of course. It's just the whole pony magic thing that confuses me, TikTok frowned. I mean, I always knew I was generally better spellcaster than the average unicorn, but I never really knew why. Perhaps you all and your connection to the elements of harmony, my above-average magics are related to being a chronomancer? That would make a lot of sense, Twilight nodded. I only wish we could be of more help ourselves. No, give it a rest already, Flathoof, Lockwood chuckled. So what if we're useless? It's not all that bad. I don't think you're useless at all, Lockwood, Fluttershy peeped. Oh, why thank you, Fluttershy. Lockwood smiled. Fluttershy turned pink and stammered. I don't think you're useless either, Flutterf. I didn't mean to single out Lockwood. It's alright, Flutterf smirked. Lockwood needs more ponies telling him that he's not useless anyway. Rarity suddenly brightened and said excitedly, Oh, I just had the most wonderful idea! I realised that my benefication ability is supposed to be able to boost any and all magic, no matter how small. Perhaps my little boost can help you to unlock some potential of your own. Oh, that's right, Fire said. You didn't say you can boost the magic in any pony. Oh, well. I think it's kind of a long shot, if you'll pardon my skepticism. I don't know, it sounds pretty legitimate to me, Lockwood hummed. Oh, come on, Lockwood, you really think we have magic too? Flav chuckled. Seriously, that's rich. Actually, you do, Twilight pointed. All ponies have a little magic in them. If Mr. Gilderoy is to be believed, some are better with it than others, sure. Like us, for example. Not to brag or anything. Others are more subtle with their magical capabilities. But when it comes down to it, every pony's special talents are based on some variation of some particular school of magic. It's all very elementary. See? There might just be something to all this, Fire. Lockwood smiled. Who knows what kind of things we're capable of if only we had our natural talents given a little jump start. I'm not saying it won't work at all, of course, Flav hurriedly added. I'm just saying I doubt it will be much help. I mean, like you say, it can boost any magic, right, but you guys also say that magic is based on your own special talent or something. That's great and all, but what kind of magic would arresting no-good criminals be represented by? Well, that's true, Twilight said, tapping her hoof to her chin. Well, no, not exactly now that I think about it. It's kind of roundabouts in some areas. First off, Rainbow Dash's talent is her speed, but her power is the expertise of Meteomancy. Sure, her skill with Meteomancy relies on her speed, so there's a connection, but speed itself doesn't directly tie to Meteomancy itself. That's just how hers is manifested. I mean, if Meteomancy always required high speeds, like what Rainbow Dash is capable of, well, think about how the Pegasi could really do even the basic stuff. Yes, and my talent is my ability to utilize fabulous gemstones to make most gorgeous fashions around, Rarity boasted, but my power, as it were, is more directly related to the element of generosity, is it not? I've lost my way. Is this how no. Who's saying this? Well, the way I see it, your talent is finding gems and crafting fashion is related to your power too, Lockwood said thoughtfully. Why, when you use your benefaction magic, do you not find the magic within your friend and then use it to make something glorious? I never thought of it that way, Rarity hummed. Oh, that's a wonderful way of looking at it, Lockwood, Fluttershy smiled. If there's one thing I'm good at, it's finding roundabout ways of explaining special talents, Lockwood chuckled. Okay, but I still don't see how either of us could possibly have anything to be of much help to them, Fleur said ruefully. Think about it, Lockwood. Your talent is making friends and connections. What the heck kind of magic can come out of that? Who knows, Lockwood shrugged. Maybe I'll just be better at making friends. Like sociomancy. Is that a thing? It's a thing, Twilight nodded. Sociomancy is the art of using magic for social advantages, but basically it's kind of like libromancy, only involving spoken words, not written ones. Things like making charismatic speeches, the art of persuasion, stuff like that is generally not very well looked upon in our society, since some of the more unique uses for it have included rallying troops of war and inspiring political coups. Oh, well, that's neat. Lockwood blinked. Frightening, but neat. Fire shrugged. Well, I guess if you want to give it a shot, Rarity, go ahead. Splendid. Let's see, you first then, Mr. Flatteff. Rarity smiled as she bathed him with the light. Flower looked around at herself in curiosity, as if expecting to see whatever change took place. Well, I don't feel any different. I guess a little less tired, actually. Well, that's a lot of help then, TikTok laughed. Maybe now you won't whine so much about being out of shape. Yeah, okay. Fleur puffed. Thanks for trying though, Rarity. Maybe whatever it is will show up some other time. Who knows? You said that this little boost is pretty long-lived if you focus it properly, right? That it is, Rarity said proudly. I put enough energy into the little boost that it should last you a few hours or so. At least until we cross this Red Death or whatever it is. Maybe I then will find out what you can really do, And as you continue to focus on using your power for yourself, you won't actually need me to boost it to be able to use it. Why, dear Rainbow Dash has made quite the mastery of her own powers without my assistance. So all I'd be doing for her is what I'd be doing for, say, Twilight or TikTok. A simple power boost. I am by no means required to help you use your powers, but a little help won't hurt. At least initially. Oh, is it my turn next then? Lockwood nodded eagerly. I thought you didn't care about being tough, Fleur scoffed. Tough, my dear fellow, if I assure you, whatever my power is, if I even have one, it will not be anything nearly so physical. Why, if my special little brand of magic is this sociomancy stuff, I bet my power is to be even more charming than I already am. Would you agree, Fluttershy? Fluttershy laughed into her hoof a little, which made Rarity smile ever so slightly. Let's just see then, shall we? She said, with a degree of hurry in her voice. She bathed him in light much the same, and Lockwood much the same looked about himself as if expecting something to happen instantly. Well, I certainly didn't turn into a suave, sophisticated stallion about town, he joked. So he didn't make me more charming. Oh well, worth a guess, I suppose. Oh, it's okay if you don't have a superpower, Lockwood, Fluttershy said sweetly, patting him on the shoulder. You're fine just the way you are. Ah, thank you, Fluttershy. Lockwood smiled, putting his hoof to hers. I suppose it would be too much to ask to... Wow, I'm really exhausted all of a sudden. Oh dear, are you alright, Lockwood? Fluttershy panicked. I feel like I've been running around all day. You have been running around all day, Flutter pointed. No, I mean, I've been rested up pretty well by now, Lockwood breathed, but now I feel like I've overexerted myself. My wings and legs ache. Fluttershy suddenly realised something. She didn't feel tired at all anymore. I think I know what happened. You see, I feel fine now, but you don't? What are you saying, Fluttershy? That you made him feel like this? Don't be so hard on yourself, dear, Rarity said sweetly. He's just a wimp, don't worry about him, Fluttershy wouldn't say that, good God. Flutterhoof chuckled. Come on, Lockwood, stop acting like a wuss. No, I mean, he feels like I just felt a few moments ago. Achy wings and legs. That's how I feel all the time since I've been recovering, but I don't feel that anymore. So what are you suggesting? That he took the pain out of you and took it upon himself? Rarity blinked. Seems like something he'd do. Flutter sighed. Hey, can I help you if I'm empathetic? Lockwood smiled. You're pathetic, alright, Flutter scoffed. Great, now we've got you to lug around. At least Fluttershy was tolerable. Oh, please don't be so hard on him, Fluttershy peeved. Haha, don't worry about it, Fluttershy, Lockwood smirked. Flutter's getting in some good-natured ribbing. He's mad that I have a power, but he doesn't. Even if I just messed it up. Pardon me. Right, Flutter snorted. I wonder, Twilight tapped her hoof to her chin. Sounds like you've got an idea, Twilight, Rarity noted. Well, it's just a theory, but going back to what Lockwood thought of earlier for Rarity, well, what if this power of his works in a similar roundabout fashion? What exactly is your special talent, Lockwood? Here we go, Flutter rolled his eyes. I'll keep it simple, Lockwood explained. I'm good at making friends and trading favours and making social networks. Twilight nodded. Well, that settles it then. He says he's a network of sorts, right? So, from what he said, he takes favours from one pony and basically trades them around, making friends along the way and making friends with friends and all that. So imagine if instead, he felt the burdens of some pony else's and took them upon himself, like he does with favours. Well, what kind of magic is that? Flo blinked. Not some kind of sociomancy or whatever, is it? I'm thinking it's a sort of expression of restomancy, perhaps. Removing pain from others is the basic tenet of restomancy, after all. Twilight hummed. Curious how it expresses itself by taking their pain upon himself, though. Well, if it works just like his talent does, then theoretically he should be able to pass the burden on to another too, which would be kind of like anti-benefication, I suppose. Oh, Lockwood, is that true? Can you pass the feeling along to others? Fluttershy sniffed. Come on then, give me back my weakness. You don't deserve to feel like this. Ha! We won't be having any of that, even if I knew how to do it, Lockwood chuckled. No, I think I'd rather be able to move I'd rather you be able to move around freely again. I'm just a layabout anyway, no good in a fight. So what's the trouble in giving me an excuse to excuse myself from all that rough and tumble activity? Figures, Fowler shook his head. Always looking for an excuse to play the pacifist. Hey, I can't help it. I never picked up any of that stuff. Lockwood shrugged. Oh, but darling, what would you do if some pony dear to you was in danger? Rarity asked with a sidelong glances at Fluttershy. Well, I suppose I would try to help, but I really don't know what I'd do, or how much help I'd be. He sighed. Rarity appeared disappointed in the answer, but didn't share it for long. His father perked up a bit and looked off to the east, making everyone else follow suit. Oh hey, look who's coming! That didn't take them long at all. Applejack, Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie had come over from the eastern side of the reservoir. Pinkie somehow managed to procure a set of binoculars that now hung around her neck, and the three of them looked like they were in rather deep conversation. While Rainbow and Applejack did, Pinkie was apparently a lot more interested in listening to the two of them than joining in herself. Whatever it had been a light-hearted subject. The three all had pretty big smiles on their faces. Oh good, you're all back, Twilight acknowledged. You all look in pretty high spirits, Rarity smiled. Did you find anything useful? Nah. Oh, nah. We were just having a good time testing out the new things with these new powers and stuff. Rarity casually grinned. Well, Applejack here wanted to prove she could use her little rock tricks without your help, Rarity. And I darn well did, sure as shooting, Applejack boasted. These here wastelands ain't so bad, to tell you the truth. Plenty of rock and dirt just to dive into. Problem is, I can feel my way through the dirt, but sometimes it'd be nice to get a look-see in what I'm digging. Any ideas, Twi? I was telling her about my dad's technique back on the rock farm, but AJ keeps saying the rocks here are different, Pinkie said, shrugging. Twilight took it on a thoughtful look, but Rarity brightened and stepped forward. Twilight, I think I've got just the thing. Applejack, darling, as you know, finding the proverbial diamond in the rough is how I found my cutie mark. I don't get how that makes digging easier. Rainbow scratched her head. Both Rarity and Applejack... both Rarity and Applejack turned to Twilight, who looked excited. I get it. Magic resonates with gemstones. All you have to do is magically induce that resonance in the visible spectrum. Precisely, Rarity said, beaming. Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash stared. Applejack cleared her throat. Beg your pardon? TikTok cracked a smile as she trotted over to the farm pony. Your friends are talking magical theory, but you're new to magic. Basically, you know how you can reach out and feel the earth? Applejack nodded slowly, trying not to bristle at TikTok's proximity. When you're feeling the earth, you're calling it. When it responds to you, you're making it resonate. Just try different calls, and some of the other stones will respond by lighting up. It's part of how I find gems, Rarity said, smiling. Applejack exhaled roughly. Well, thanks for the lesson. It wasn't really important out here, though. Nothing but dirt, and I just wish I could find something growing out there besides dead trees that ain't got any leaves. It ain't fair that even the plants don't stand much of a chance out here. You didn't find anything alive? TikTok interjected. Did you guys find out anything else? Are we close? How much farther is it? Oh god, I've lost my place. Well, Applejack started with a hint of annoyance in her voice. On the other side of this here reservoir, it tapers out off a kind of cliff of sorts. Nothing too hard to climb that down. Y'all can see that red death or whatever it is from the top of the cliff pretty easy like, even without Pinkie's fancy binoculars. Oh, these? Pinkie said as she prodded them. There's nothing special about it. There's nothing special, I just figured they'd come in handy. She pulled them up to her face and gazed through them at Rarity, who shied away from the sudden attention. Gosh, Rarity, you do a great job of keeping clean. There ain't a spot on you. Well, yes, naturally, Rarity posed. Well, anyway, it looks just like it did in the visions Mr. Gilderoy showed us, even from this far away," Applejack finished. "To tell you the truth, I'm not much liking the place." Yeah, it's still got that barrier thing around it too," Rainbow pointed. "I tried to give the place a little flyover, but I can't get in. You'll probably have to bring the barrier down or something, Twi." "I don't think that's the best idea," Twilight shook her head. "If it works like it did in the visions, the whole place might start leaking outwards, and who knows where it might stop." "And it is awful close to the city limits," Applejack added. Wouldn't want it to start attacking the city or nothing." I think I can phase us through it, but we'll have to see when we get there," Twilight nodded. Fair enough. Whatever gets us through. Sucks that we can't go around it, though." Rainbow sighed. "The whole place is bordered on the southern side by cliffs and mountainside. I don't think any of you would want to try and get through. The northern edge is way far too north. Like, I could see into the city itself from that high up." Well, we've got that all settled. What say we get a move on?" Twilight suggested. "Is every pony all ready to go?" "As we'll ever be," Fluff nodded. "Let's get the show on the road." The party of ponies looked into the distance with some trepidation. The Red Death, as Gilderoy had called it, was more imposing today in real time than it had been centuries ago through his imagined visions. A field of red stretched out as far as they could see, dotted with large splotches of black that seemed to accumulate in piles. From here they could see that the trees that dotted the landscape were dead. Only not. They appeared black and rotten, but the leaves that drooped around them looked very much alive, even if they too were black. It was all very unnatural. Twilight took the first step forward and put her hoof to the magical field she could detect in the area, which flickered at her touch. This is a very powerful force field. I've never felt magic with this strangeness before," she said, curiosity in her voice. That isn't going to be a problem, is it?" Rainbow asked. "No, I can get through it," Twilight answered. "I won't need to break it down or anything. I can definitely just phase us through without an issue." "Are you sure this place is called Red Death?" TikTok asked as she looked at the map. "Because here on my map it's called Bloodmire." Oh yeah, that sounds better," Rainbow rolled her eyes. "This whole world has just got loads and loads of dangerous sounding places, doesn't it? Red Blade Mountains, Red Death, what's next? Valley of Skulls?" "Ooh, Bonehenge!" Pinky blurted. "Doom River," Rainbow added. "The Cave of No Return." No, the Sea of Torment. The Plane of Pain. Oh, the Plane of Pain. 10,000 BC Bay. The BC stands for body count. The Mudred Mountains of Blood Red. The Mudred Mountains Blood Red Fountains. Oh yeah, that's it. Man, when we get it back, we've got to see if Vinyl's got some old school distorters around. This oozes power metal ballads, Pinky. We can make an entire album out of this stuff. We could sing stuff, Pinky wailed, air guitaring an audible power chord and laying a thick solo with no apparent instrument. And then this singing that I'm not going to do. As Rainbow proceeded to headbang with Pinky into an entirely inappropriate but flippin' sweet improvised metal chorus, Fluttershy squeaked, Oh my, please tell me none of those pictures are real. Relax, Fluttershy, darling, they're just joking around. Oh, places are real. Why did I say pictures? I have no idea. Places. Relax, Fluttershy, darling. They're just joking around, Rarity assured her, even as she stole looks at Pinky doing a walking scale down her invisible guitar with her tongue, and getting results. Really now, girls, there's no need for that kind of talk. Surely not everything in this world has such dreadful names. I'd like to think the southern continent, what with it being a haven for good and all that, has some bright and colourful names for places, like Sunshine Fields or something like that. Sunflower Fields, TikTok corrected. I really wish we were there right now. I could go for a sunflower. Oh, so it is true then. Rarity smiled, trying to keep her mind off the sunflowers too. Mostly. A few places here and there aren't so nice, more like mysterious, TikTok added with hesitation. That's the only way I can describe them though, but yes, the southern continents are much nicer in terms of names for places. Only the northern continent is quite so forbidding, with only Goldridge Pass retaining any sense of nicety to it, what with it being an all-round pleasant place. And besides, the Sea of Torment got its name changed like 30 years ago anyway, Lockwood noted. Oh, what's it called now? Twilight asked. The Sea of Endless Sorrow, TikTok said bluntly. Oh man, we were just joking. Rainbow chuckled as Pinky between her nodding somehow lit a real fire to her still invisible guitar and gave it an impromptu Viking funeral. After this apparent solemnity, Pinky suddenly piped up and said, "That's a real place? The Sea of Endless Sorrow? Do they really keep track of all that sorrow? It's real and..." Wait, who's saying this? It's real and, well, I'm not personally an expert on how regular sorrow is there day to day, but I think we can infer that apparently it's constant, with no signs of contrary to this behaviour. I.e. signs of stopping, there are none. Endless sorrow in the sea. TikTok panned as best she could, but her eyes betrayed her amusement. I've lost my way, hang on. Well, all we need now is the Forsaken Forest of Fear. And we've got a whole collection. Pinky giggled. It's like I have a really bad horror movie or game or something. Next thing you know, she said in a dark tone, we're going to be walking along some dark, spooky path, and just around the bend, as she turned the flashlight, and she suddenly had produced on zombies. Fluttershy cringed away and huddled close to Lockwood, who was the closest to her. Oh dear. Pinkie Pie, you have the strangest ideas sometimes. All that aside, let's just get this over with, shall we? Twilight insisted before Pinky could further argue about zombies and zombie places. She charged her horn and caused all of her friends to glow bright white. We should be able to pass through the barrier now. Every pony, who wants to go first? No pony stepped forward for a good several moments before Applejack grumbled and raised a hoof. Fine. Let's just get this here nonsense over with. We're wasting time being all chicken about going in. That's the spirit, AJ, Rainbow said proudly. We'll be right behind you. Way behind you, Lockwood chuckled. Applejack stepped up to the barrier and put her hoof through it to test out Twilight's spell. Sure enough, her hoof passed right through the shield like it was liquid. Assured that it was okay, she stepped through the barrier proper. She almost immediately let back out in an absolute repugnance, holding her hoof to her mouth and nose. What the hey? Rainbow asked. Everything alright there, AJ? Oh, Celestia. Applejack groaned as she held her stomach. The smell, whoa, Nelly. She had to fight the urge to vomit, worried if she did empty her stomach, that would come out in a desperate attempt to search for food. The smell? What smell? I don't smell anything, Twilight said. Just take a whiff inside there, Applejack murmured as she hastily breathed in the air outside the barrier. Twilight raised an eyebrow but decided to oblige. She stuck just her head out into the field and almost immediately pulled it back out again and made a very visible effort not to vomit, all the same as Applejack had, and didn't appear to be having a better time of it. Whoa, Rainbow said nervously. Oh heavens! And we have to go through this horrid place? Rarity blanched. If Applejack found the smell unbearable, I hardly doubt any pony else amongst us would find it any better. After Twilight had a moment to recollect her wits, she coughed and shook her head. Oh, wow. Okay, that was not pleasant. I think we need another spell or two to make this bearable. She lit up her horn until all of her friends' heads glowed in the light blue. There, she stated. That's a protective air bubble, like what unicorns use when swimming and don't feel like using a snorkel. Good thinking, Sparkle, Tick-Tock nodded, her voice slightly muffled by the air bubble. Do all of our solutions to our problems involve just throwing a bubble or shield around them? Rainbow rolled her eyes. Oh, I'm complaining, but come on, Twilight, show some creativity. Hey, give me a break here, Twilight sorted. Natural attitude with all the different subsets of barrier spells and other guardian magics just sort of run in the family. It takes lots of natural talent with force fields to cast a barrier around all of Canterlot, wouldn't you agree? Point taken, Rainbow shrugged. Just saying, you need to liven it up a little sometimes. Yes, well, this will have to do. I'd rather not have to waste time with us stopping every 20 seconds to lose our lunch. We didn't have any lunch. Pinky pointed, and to be honest, I can really go for a pie or two now, or 3, or 12. Apple and cherry and blueberry and peach and Applejack made a face. Please, can we not talk about food right now? Pinky held her hoof to her mouth. Aw, but Pinky, I swear, if y'all gabbing about food, I'll pop that there bubble of yours and let you smell what's in there. Applejack glared. Well, line up, AJ, Rainbow huffed. Applejack shuffled her hood. Sorry, just dang, that stinks. Just whew. I can still smell it way up in my nose here. It's going to be a month before it dies out, and I can smell normal again. Whatever it is, it already smells dead. Twilight shook her head. Hey, you poor girls, Rarity pouted. I wonder if... Aha! Here, let me try something. She lit up her horn, causing the bubbles over Twilight and Applejack to glow pink for a moment, before fading back to blue. Twilight and Applejack both perked up. Golly, Rarity, what in the hell y'all do? Applejack blinked as she sniffed around. Smells like strawberries, Twilight noted. Wow, thanks, Rarity. Don't mention... Yeah, thanks a lot for reminding me about strawberries, Applejack snorted. I just gone and told Pinky. Rarity frowned as she preened herself a little. Well, so it's just a little fragrance magic, nothing special. I've used it to add to certain dresses here and there, and make them more enticing, so to speak. Pinkie Pie bounced excitedly. Oh, I remember. My dress at the gala smelled like bubble gum. Bubble... Pinky, Rainbow grumbled. Applejack hummed. Now that you mention it, my dress kind of smelled a mite like fresh apples. I figured it was because, I was standing around apples all night on account of not selling any. Rarity smiled brightly and cast a spell over all the others, delighting in the smell of fresh strawberries herself. There. Now we can all enjoy a little bit of pleasantness. Certainly better than breathing our own air over and over for the trek across. Great, now all I have on my mind is strawberries, Rainbow sighed. The party all stepped into the barrier properly now, and got a chance to see what it looked like without the sight filter of magical energy in the way, and it was not all that pleasant to sight. The air inside was dark and murky, much more so than the dark magic-stained sky outside the force field. The vast expanse of land was crimson red, covered with vile substance that could not be described more accurately than blood-like. The mounds of black that was strewn haphazardly about drew their attention as well. What were they? Why were they so abundant? Rarity blanched and began nervously walking in place. Oh heavens, what is this horrid stuff covering the ground? It's sticking to my hoofs. It is most unseemly. Ugh, this place is gross, Rainbow stated as she took to the air to get away from the same stuff that was bothering every pony else. Rarity's right, what is that stuff? I'd rather not find out, Twilight said, shaking her hoof to get some of the stuff off. But it seems like it's trying to crawl all over us. Ah, get it off, get it off, get it off! Pinky yelled as she frantically flailed her hooves around, sending the gunk that had stuck to her flying about. We need to keep moving, TikTok said. It doesn't seem to stick quite as much as long as we're not standing still. No arguments here, Flav agreed, scraping off some of his leg. They hastily began moving east. They could barely walk more than a few paces before they had to walk around one of the piles of black, some of them large and some of them small. And from this close they could see that the mounds weren't mounds at all, but piles of something, all collected together. But piles of what exactly? They were uncertain. Heavens, what are those piles made of? Rarity asked no pony in particular as she examined one. I wonder, could we use these to avoid walking on these vile red goo? Twilight darling, be a dear and help me see what these piles are, That might not be a bad idea, Twilight nodded, trotting over with her horn aglow. Here, let me see what... Then noises started. Any pony else here or there? Applejack asked. It was quiet at first, barely above a whisper, amongst like something sloshing through very thick liquid very far away. Yeah, that doesn't sound good at all. Rainbow shook her head. Where's it coming from? The party began to congregate together. Everywhere, Twilight said nervously. It's coming from all around us. The noise was getting louder, surrounding them. The sloshing sound was soon joined by what sounded like movement and rumbling of things attempting to move. Their attention was drawn to the nearest pile of black to them, when the noise was at its loudest, and to their shock the mound was beginning to stir. Pinpricks of dark red light sparked up in the pile and grew larger until they was the size and shape of eyes. The light was more than enough to highlight the contours of pile's contents. Bodies of ponies. Bodies that were moving. The pile slumped and broke apart, and the ponies began to rise to their hooves. Their flesh was blackened and rotten in the late stages of decomposition, and somehow kept at that state by whatever horrible magics permeating the very air around them. Strips of flesh flaked off, bone poked out through skin and coat. Insides dripped and hung out, where their bodies had been broken or mangled to the point of uselessness. Wherever there was a void that should have been filled with flesh and bone, or wing and feather, or even horn, there was an aura of deep red magic that kept pieces together, replacing whatever was missing or too far damaged. The rotting creatures began to walk towards them, their pace purposeful and strong, slow and menacing, the red in their eyes flashing and flickering with gruesome intent. The group slowly backed away, their faces white with shock and horror, unable to fully comprehend what they were seeing. Gilderoy hadn't been kidding about abominations. Sweet Harmonia, TikTok blurted. What are they? Twilight exclaimed, lighting up her horn in preparation to defend herself and her friends. Zombies! Lockwood gulped. Pickett was right! Oh, get them away! Stand by me, Fluttershy. I won't let these things harm you. Rarity panicked, standing defensively in front of Fluttershy, who shuddered behind her in a frenzied panic. What did we do? Step into one of Pinky's crazy comic books? Rainbow said, taking points with Applejack and Twilight. Oh, come on, guys, there's nothing to be afraid of, Pinky said with astoundingly calm dismissal. Nothing to be afraid of? Pinky, are you seeing what we're seeing? TikTok balked, taking steps to be near the front with Twilight. Sure I am, and I'm telling you, there's nothing to be afraid of, Pinky said matter-of-factly. First of all, sure, there's zombies. How cliche is that, really? Second, okay, zombies are what exactly? Dead ponies brought back by some horrible dark magic with the intention of devouring our flesh and chewing our bones and adding us to their number the most gruesome and bloody ways possible. Every pony stared at her with incredulous expressions. Pinky tapped her hoof to her chin. Huh. Well, when you put it that way... Ah, zombies! Ah! Another noise from behind them diverted their attention from the group already walking their way, as another pile of nearby bodies stirred to life. While the first group was only a modest dozen or so, these new additions brought the total to well within overwhelming numbers. The addition of a new threat made the ponies begin to take steps to prevent themselves from being surrounded. "This don't look good," Applejack muttered. "Okay, so there's more of them. No big deal," Rainbow said as firmly as she could. "We can handle this. We got superpowers, right? AJ, you take that bunch on the left. Twilight, get the right, and I'll get the centre. Everybody else can work back up." "Sounds like a plan," Twilight nodded. "We'll distract them while the rest of you get out of..." Another noise rumbled behind them as another pile of bodies shuddered to life, cutting off their escape route completely, surrounding them with a horde of shambling horrors that numbered the dozens, and worse still, they could see the pinpricks of light beginning to glow in other nearby piles. In fact, it seemed that every pile was beginning to light up. They could almost feel the weight as scores of new eyes gazed upon them with murderous intent. "Oh, come on!" Rainbow complained. "Can we ever catch a break?" We might be in over our heads here," Applejack gulped. "I don't think forcing our way through this is gonna work." "Right, maybe it would be best if we think of something else?" Rainbow nodded nervously. "Simple solutions are always the best," Twilight said calmly as she planted her hooves firmly in the muck. "I'll put up a barrier to keep them away, and then we'll all start moving and get out of here, okay?" Twilight's horn flashed a bright silver and surrounded the group with a force field. The light from her horn was enough to make patches of the muck beneath their hooves shy away, allowing them to stand firmly without worry of the gunks slowing them down. The creatures all approached the barrier and clambered around on top of one another to try and force their way into the protective bubble, but instead just managed to uselessly pound away at it. "See? Simple." Twilight smiled proudly. "I could keep this up all day if I had to. This is easily my best barrier spell yet. Check it out, I can move while maintaining it." She demonstrated that she could indeed move around with the bubble without needing to focus any additional energy whatsoever. "Usually the only way I can do that is if I put a shield around a stationary object, like my library or something, or if it was keeping the spell focused only on myself." "Impressive," TikTok hummed. Well, thank goodness for that," Rarity breathed. "See, darling," she said to Fluttershy, "everything's going to be okay. No need to be frightened anymore." "Right," Fluttershy gulped. Twilight nodded with a broad grin. "Everything's taken care of. Nothing to..." A rumble from below drew her attention. She leapt back in surprise as the rotten face of what had once been a pony began to rise from the ground, its teeth barred, sharp and jagged. More rumbles signalled more of the things coming up from all around them. Twilight and her friends moved hastily back into a defensive circle. The rotten ponies beneath them struggled to push their way out of the ground with hooves broken by decay but sharpened by the malicious intent of the magic that fueled them. Slowly enough of the living ponies inside had time to gather together against one side of the bubble shield in a frantic huddle. "Oh, not good," Rarity said simply. "Fluttershy, darling, stay close to me again." The Pegasus gave an affirmative peep, huddling close to the unicorn with Ophanim circling defensively around them both. "Well, so much for that idea, Sparkle," TikTok gulped. "Nice try, though. Maybe we should have gone back through Goldridge." "Well, if we're going to get out of here, it looks like we've only got one choice," Twilight said firmly. "And that is?" Lockwood asked, knowing the answer but wishing he didn't. Twilight stamped her hoof. "We fight our way out." "If that's the way it's going to be, then let's get to it," Rainbow boasted as confidently as possible. "Time to test these new powers out for real, guys. Let's make these things regret coming after us." "Right with you, Dash." Applejack nodded, taking point between the others and Same point between the others and the monsters digging their way up in the centre of the shield. Okay, we'll get ready to fight on 3, Twilight said, flaring her horn as brightly as ever. 1, 2, 3! Twilight first filled the tiny bowl with the great light which caused the creatures coming up from beneath them to crumble into dust. She followed by overcharging her shield, sending abominations flying back several yards and giving the group some much-needed breathing room, which was rather short-lived as the shambling horde began to move in with determination. Rainbow was the first to move, charging towards the nearest group of the things at top speed, furiously flapping her wings with all the might she could muster, creating a torrent of air that pushed the creatures back. As she focused herself on controlling the wind she was creating, she was able to turn into a massive gust, a tailwind that allowed her to take off at top speed almost instantly. "Come on, uglies, try and keep up," she taunted. A few dozen creatures that had once been Pegasi took off after her. The things were just as broken and rotten as the earth ponies and unicorns below them, their wings nothing more than decayed bone with great stretches of magic intertwined within. It left a sizable dent in the amount of creatures in the amount of creatures down below, much less for her friends to worry about, at least for now. She could see from up here that even the few she managed to lure away would be replaced soon enough. Time to work fast, she thought. They were slower than she was by a very sizable margin, enough so that when she gained too large of a lead, they all stopped and began to loop around back towards the ground. That wouldn't do at all, Rainbow thought. She kicked her hind legs together as hard as she could, causing her rainbow trail to morph into a bolt of lightning. She looped back around and dove straight towards her former pursuers, who all turned at the sound of her approach and took off towards her again. She continued forward, straight on against them, as if challenging them to a game of chicken. Just seconds before she reached the creatures at the lead, its mouth opened wide in preparation to attack, baring sharp teeth that could tear through flesh like tissue paper. She rolled sharply aside at the last second and zigzagged her way through the line of followers, and the last second zigzagged her way through the line of followers, a living bolt of lightning. The electric trail in her wake connected with each and every one in the congregation, sending them into fierce convulsions. The lightning disrupted the magic that was keeping them together, causing them to crumble, explode, or simply fall helplessly to the ground below. "Booyah! Rainbow Dash 7, Creepy Zombie 0! Rainbow cheered. She turned in time to avoid being mauled by another one of the things that managed to approach while she was busy boasting, and grunted in annoyance as she noticed it had brought friends with it. She twirled into a dive, bringing them chasing after her. Twirled and twirled, spun and spun until a lightning trail exploded into a great twister that whirled behind her. The monsters had managed to catch up during her spin and attempted to pounce on her from either direction. She looped around and avoided getting a face full of teeth, but lost her focus on her tornado, watching in disappointment as it walked back into a rainbow while she tried to distance herself. "Damn, these things just don't give any room to get anything started," she swore. This is going to be harder than I thought. Down below, the party managed to create a wide circle as Twilight's brightly flaring horn kept the creatures at a distance. They were afraid of the light, it seemed, unaware that it was just a light and could not actually damage them. Twilight was thankful that even if she didn't believe in zombies before, she certainly read enough fiction to know that zombies were dark creatures and, it would seem, shunned light magics wholesale. "I can't keep this up forever," Twilight huffed. "We're moving too slowly, and did they wise up to the fact that light isn't hurting them, we could be in trouble. We need a plan." "Leave it to me, Twilight. I'll lie in the load a little, if my name isn't Pinkie Pie." She self-affirmed, clapping her hooves together excitedly.
Oh boy, I've always wanted to do this. Time to see if all my years of training has paid off. Years of training? Pinky, what? Twilight started. She and the others all looked at Pinky with a great deal of surprise and confusion. Pinky, what happened to your clothes? When it happened, they didn't know, nor did they know how, or especially why, but Pinky had just somehow changed outfits without any of them noticing. Her leather jacket and decorative t-shirt had been replaced by a drab grey shirt, simple and unassuming with the exception of an insignia on the sleeves. At her shoulders were a pair of what looked like leather braces, attached to straps that ran down her torso where they wrapped around like a harness. She also wore, instead of a propeller beanie, a grey beret that attached the collar to of the shoulder braces, also bearing an insignia that matches the ones on her sleeves. What? Oh, do you like my outfit? Pinky grinned, showing off her new duds. I figured they would be appropriate for a survival horror sequence. Well, with the zombies and all. What? TikTok bulked. Pinky continued, unbaited. So hey, classic Valentine. I mean, I guess I could have gone for Redfield, but yawn, boring. Classic. Lockwood blinked. Who or what is a Valentine, or a Redfield for that matter? Rarity snorted. I mean, sure, I could have gone with, like, the sexy movie version, but the movies are garbage. I mean, the whole point of this uniform is fighting zombies, and, like, almost no zombies at all in the movies. Lame. So, why does that look almost like a police uniform? Fleur asked. Duh, because it is, see? She smiled, pointing at the insignia, just like the NPPD and everything. What the hey does STRAS even mean? Oh, that was Applejack, but whatever. Applejack blinked. Look, girls, I'd love to stay and chat, but I've got an undead horde to take care of, so no time to talk. Bye! Pinky cheered, separating herself from the others with a great leap over the wall of rotten creatures. Pinky, wait! Twilight balked. Several of the creatures eagerly followed Pinky as she landed. The pink earth pony did not look at all afraid of the situation, and instead stared down her pursuers with a fierce determination. Pinky! Rarity called. Don't go off on your own! Just let her go, Rarity. We can't risk all splitting up to go after her. Twilight shook her head. Pinky knows what she's doing, I hope. Or maybe she doesn't. I don't know if what makes me more or less worried. It seems to me like it would make her more of a threat, TikTok added. Let's just focus on ourselves for now. Oh, but what if she... Rarity started. Pinky shouted back. Come on, Rarity, don't worry about me. I won't leave you guys for dead. Well, wait, 7 dead. That doesn't work out quite the same. Never mind. We'll meet up later. Just let me and Rainbow Dash know when you're getting near the shield wall. All they could see in Pinky's wake were furious explosions of what appeared to be fireworks and frosting, sending the abominations flying every which way, drawing more of the abominations over to the commotion. Twilight and those with her left rather stunned until they realised that not all the creatures had been drawn away and were now starting to advance on them again. Well, the load has been lightened, I'll give it that. Okay, gang, while Rainbow and Pinky have got them occupied, let's clear a path, Twilight called, suddenly dropping her aura. She fired several bolts of magic in rapid succession in a wide arc in front of her, sweeping a route through the horde as best she could, but she found clearing a path easier said than done. The things just kept coming. As her bolts of magic struck, some of them disintegrated entirely, while most simply collapsed in a heap, the red magics keeping them all together and fading out. But they just kept coming anyway. More and more of them clambered over the broken bodies of the fallen and lumbered forward undeterred. TikTok took point in front of Twilight, using barriers of her own to give the other unicorn cover from the horned creatures that began lobbing bolts of magic at them. TikTok grunted in annoyance. At this rate, we're going to be more worried about being buried under a pile of these things before any of them reach us. Well, you and me will just keep it at it until then, Twilight snorted. We have no choice but to try and blast our way through, but I don't think we have the time to charge up a sufficient spell. Well, hopefully we only have to worry about this direction then, Digdrock said. Let's hope the others behind us are doing their job and covering our rear. There's too many of them, Flav blurted, bucking one in the head and knocking it clean off. Where in the hell are they coming from? He barely avoided another one coming at him. It was becoming clear that they were getting overwhelmed and fast. Hey, if I know, Applejack swore as she avoided another one of the things leaping at her. Darn it, the dang ground's all sort of polluted by this here muck. Can't get a good feel of the dirt. Rarity, a little help? Certainly, darling. Rarity flustered, taking steps to avoid the stray bolt of magic that streaked around them. She turned to Fluttershy. Fluttershy, dear, stay close to Mr. Lockwood, okay? Things are getting pretty hectic, but I think I'll keep him out of danger, understand? Oh, but I want to help. Fluttershy peeped, often orbited around her excitedly, as various animal spirits to congregate around her in a cluster. Nonsense, darling, it's much too... Dang nabbit, Rarity, come on! Applejack blurted. Coming! Rarity called, sprinting over to the two earth ponies. Rarity flared her horn and bathed Applejack in a white glow, allowing the earth pony a greater focus on the tainted ground, enough that she could feel the connection to the rocky earth below, or the red mark. Her body began to warp and charge from flesh and bone and fur to solid, uncompromising rock. One of the things that she hadn't expected, one of the things that she hadn't been quite paying attention to, in asking for Rarity's help, rushed in and bit down hard, expecting to sink its teeth into a tasty meal, instead finding itself crunching down harmlessly on solid rock. Shattering teeth. Applejack, now coloured a drab browny grey, shook the thing off without much effort and swung her rock-solid tail in like a club to crush its head, splattering herself with rancid goo. Oh, how gruesome, darling, Rarity blanched. Could you not be so... Aye! Rarity's focus was lost when one of the things came after her in her own moment of distraction. She hastily tried to defend herself with her hooves, despite knowing full well that would accomplish nothing. She closed her eyes in horror as the thing's red eyes and sharp teeth and rotten flesh bore down on her. Acting quickly, Flav rammed the thing with all his might. The horrible monstrosity shattered apart, its limbs scattering everywhere as if struck by a massive amount of force. Rarity blinked in awe as Flav looked around at himself, the subtle white glow that encircled him. The glow was bright enough that some of the nearby creatures backed off slightly from him, if only for a moment. So, I guess I have super strength, Flav said. Huh, maybe I didn't need to get into shape after all. Oh, thank you, dear Fathoof. Rarity breathed, fanning herself rapidly. I thought for a moment that I was a goner. Well, even without a gift, I wasn't about to let anything happen to... Well, even without a gift, I wasn't about to let anything happen to any of you. Flav nodded, taking a defensive position in front of her. Now I'll just be a little better at it, thanks to you. Seems my talent really is protecting other ponies. Stick behind me, I'll keep you safe. Enough yapping your gums and get back there! Enough yapping your gums back there! Applejack spat as she haphazardly started shaking off some more of the things that had set upon her. Her efforts to feast upon her rocky hide were futile, but she certainly was being bogged down by the sheer number of bodies piling on top of her. I might made a rock, but that don't mean these things ain't heavy. Fluttershy nervously backed away from all the action, often orbited around her in a fluster, reacting to her anxiety. Some of the animal spirits around her were reacting as well, standing defensively around her, knowing full well that they could not help. Fluttershy gulped. She wanted to be of use, but she still couldn't decide which animal she was going to ask to be her friend. This would be the opportunity to make that choice. but the animals themselves were not making that easy. She looked around in a frenzy, trying to hastily gauge which one should be the best option. But there were so many choices. Too many choices. She needed something strong, something fast, something fierce. She could hardly pick out the differences between the individual animals themselves, let alone any of the creatures around her. In a misdirected focus, she failed to notice one of the monsters leaping towards her. Fluttershy! Fluttershy turned and let out a tiny panicked squeak as the black and rotten once pony came at her, faster than she could retreat. It never made it that far, not before it was shoved aside by a quick-acting Lockwood who, in his haste to get the thing away from her, didn't quite grasp Fluttershy's concept of ramming it, rather than grabbing it and taking it with him. He and the thing rolled and wrestled around together for several moments before he ended up pinned beneath it. He also forgot that he was not even in peak condition, and regretted now not asking for a break before they all came into the field. As now he could barely fight the thing off himself. He also realised that he was absolutely terrified of these things, perhaps more so than she was. "Lockwood!" she screamed in a panic. "Offer him, do something!" "Get off!" he yelped as the thing jabbed a rather sharp hoof at him, just narrowly missing his face. He pushed it off him as best as he could, and attempted to roll away until he felt an excruciating pain rip through him. The base of his left wing screamed in burning agony. "Ah! No!" A bright flash of light exploded around Fluttershy, and suddenly the creature was ferociously torn off Lockwood and thrown aside before being set upon by a bolt of bright light. The thing tried to bite its new attacker, but accomplished nothing, its fangs cracking uselessly against an opaque white substance, extremely solid despite looking like mist. The spirit wolf locked its jaws around the monster's head and crushed, letting the rancid gore fill its mouth before spitting it all out. Immediately after, it leapt with great ferocity at the creature nearest to Fluttershy, wrestling it to the ground and ripping its head off like a stuffed toy. Lockwood was quickly joined by Fluttershy, who frantically knelt down to him. "Lockwood? Oh no. Are you all... No, no, of course you're not. No. She panicked. "This is all my fault." "Hey, relax, Fluttershy," Lockwood stammered, struggling to his knees. "I'm alright. Ow. Okay, moving, not a good idea." "Oh, please don't try to... Ah!" he yelled as a fierce burning sensation ripped through him. He looked down to see what it was, and his eyes widened in horror. The red gunk around him was almost in a frenzy, clinging to his coat and skin and wing, and especially to his new wound, where it bubbled and sizzled, and worse, seemed to enter. He frantically tried to get the stuff off him, but the more he tried to wipe it off, the more covered he seemed to get. Fluttershy desperately tried to help, but found she wasn't making it any better either. Oh dear, we need help. Twilight! Twilight turned her attention from the advancing horde on her and TikTok's front for a moment, rather panicked that all of her effort wasn't making enough of a dent in the clamouring hordes of rotting monsters that just kept coming and coming and coming, still as endless in supply as ever, and beginning to make headway in reaching her and TikTok as they climbed over the steadily growing mountain of their motionless brethren. For every one they seemed to destroy, two more took its place. "Fluttershy, is everything alright back there?" "No, it's not alright. Lockwood is hurt. I need you." Twilight glanced at TikTok, still firing off as many spells she could in the meanwhile. "You think you can keep these things busy while I see what's the matter?" Not really." TikTok nervously chuckled, blocking another spell that flew their way. "But do I have a choice? I'll buy you as much time as I can, but try not to take too long." Twilight nodded, flaring a horn brightly and driving back the wave in front of her, giving TikTok the time she needed to shut off her barrier and begin launching spells of her own. With the opening she needed, Twilight hustled back several dozen places from the perimeter. She'd been trying to establish to where Fluttershy was huddled protectively over Lockwood. Twilight noticed the little orb that was offering him was now gone, and instead was several yards away, ripping and tearing its way through ranks of horrid creatures, creating a protective circle around its mistress. "Fluttershy, you chose your own..." Twilight started. "No time for that, he needs attention," she pleaded, Okay, I'm here, just relax, Twilight said reassuringly, flaring her horn's light and chasing away the red goo that was slowly beginning to envelop him. She stood over Lockwood and motioned over for him to lift his wing, which he kept close to his side. Okay, Lockwood, I can't help if I don't know what I'm dealing with here. Let me see. He noticed he lifted his wing and let her take a good look. Twilight gasped in horror and fell back a step. Oh my. Fluttershy sniffed. Oh, Lockwood, don't worry about it. It's just a scratch, okay? I'll be fine. He said with a grimace. Look, I'm just trying to focus on your spirit friend, okay? Make sure he gives Twilight the room she needs to work. Yes, that sounds like a good idea, Fluttershy nodded, turning her attention to Ophanim. Twilight immediately went to work, but found that her magic was having no luck in healing the wound at all. Every time she managed to seal it up, it instantly reopened again and made Lockwood recoil in pain. Her face contorted in focus. She tried again, using more magic, but again her efforts went to waste. This is bad. This is very bad. Why isn't my rescuomancy doing anything? This doesn't make any sense, she said in panic. Oh no, Fluttershy gasped, having her attention drawn back to Lockwood's plight. Don't worry about me, Fluttershy. I'm just... he groaned. I'm fine. You need to stop talking. Conserve your energy, Twilight said sternly to him. I'll need to take a better look at this, but I don't think this is time or place. We need to move, now. Can you move on your own, Lockwood? I doubt it. Lockwood shook his head with obvious pain. Twilight turned to where Flutterf, Applejack and Rarity were busy keeping creatures at bay in the rear. Flutterf, Applejack, I need some help over here. On my way, Sugar Cube, Applejack called. Let me, Flutterf said simply. You can handle these numbers better than I can, especially with Rarity's help. Fine then, she nodded. Quit yapping and get moving. Flutterf galloped over and immediately was set into a state of panic. Lockwood! What happened? No time to explain, Twilight said quickly. We need to get him out of here, and fast. You're going to have to carry him. I'll work with TikTok to clear a better path through. You stay on our tails, understood? Absolutely, Flutterf nodded. Come on, old buddy, we're getting you out of here. My hero, Lockwood said with a forced chuckle. Then he winced. Ow, it hurts to laugh. What about me? Fluttershy stepped forward. What can I do to help? Stick close to Flutterf and have Ophanim cover our retreat. Twilight nodded. Applejack, Rarity, we're getting out of here. Follow us. Right behind you, darling, Rarity called. I'll send up a signal so that Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie know what's happening. Twilight galloped back to TikTok's position, much to the other unicorn's relief. What kept you? What's happening back there? Lockwood is hurt. We're getting out of here, Twilight explained as she stepped in front of the TikTok. I hope your new plan to clear a path is better than the last one. They just keep coming. My spells aren't powerful enough to destroy them completely. I'm just starting to run out of juice, just trying to slow them down. Time to pull out all the stops then, Twilight nodded. Stand back a little. TikTok obliged, allowing Twilight some berth. Twilight focused herself, her heart and mind concentrating on keeping her friend safe, fighting hard to stave off the doubt that she'd be able to do so. Already one of her friends was in critical condition and her magic was failing to help him. She would not let another one fall. Magic flowed smoothly through her body, enough that she began to glow a pearly white for a few moments, before her horn let loose a terrific volley of magical bolts that scattered and sprayed all around in a forward arc, ripping apart the round monsters like paper and beginning to clear a path through the horde. She turned to TikTok. You help the others keep our rear of threats. I'll focus on the front. Try and stay close to me, okay? Right, TikTok nodded. Pinkie joined up over the shambling horde and saw the light shooting skywards as well. Oh shoot, we're moving so soon? She groaned, ignoring the monsters striking at her from behind. In a smooth, nonplussed manner, she threw a pie behind her, which struck the thing in the face and exploded in a shower of frosting and crust and cherries. She was about to leave for the others when she noticed a sparkling purple glow radiating from the creature's motionless body. Curious, she poked it and then brightened in sincere surprise. Oh snap, she cheered. Sweet loot! Whoa, what is this thing? She cooed as she pulled a gleaming silver sword away from the disintegrating monster. It was decorated in splendid gold and and adorned with rubies and sparkled brightly despite there being no natural light around to create such an effect. This thing looks so familiar. But it's neat! And then, in purple brackets, wall breaker. I assume that's what it's called. Oh! Plus 50 to my awesomeness stats. That's best in slot. Wait, why can't I put it in my bag? Flat Earth was leading the charge behind Twilight, and Fluttershy close behind him, often and protectively sprinting along at their side, mauling and tearing at anything that threatened to come too close. Applejack and TikTok followed in suit, keeping Rarity between them and the other two so that Rarity could keep them boosted as needed. Rainbow, high above, kept any airborne threat that gave them any trouble. I can see the other side of the barrier, Twilight called behind her. We're almost there, gang. Let's keep moving. The others all hastened their pace to keep up. Very suddenly, TikTok tripped on something. Applejack made to stop and go get her up, but was soon set upon by several of the abominations at once. Rarity caught a Flat Earth and Fluttershy. Just keep moving. We'll be with you all in a moment. TikTok herself upright with a little help from Rarity, and they found themselves facing down a wall of the creatures that were hot on their trail. They were about to start running to catch up to the others, but Applejack called out, "Dang nabbit, Rarity, don't just stand there. Get these things off of me." "And for heaven's sake, Applejack," Rarity huffed, "these beastly things can't hurt you. Just let them wear themselves out." "Come on, let's hope." TikTok started as she followed behind Rarity, who was already moving more than a crawl. Wait, what? Hang on. TikTok started as she followed Rarity, who was already moving to give Applejack a boost to help shake the things off. But she saw something odd. The wall of creatures suddenly slowed itself barely more than a crawl. From the middle of the wall, she could see something clearing a path through the monsters. TikTok barely reacted in time to defend herself with a shield spell of her own before whatever it was attacked her. She hesitated to open her eyes, and was surprised to see that her attacker hadn't been reflected back by a spell at all, and in fact, its silvery metal wing remained firmly embedded in her barrier. What was worse, it seemed to slowly be fighting its way through the barrier, undeterred by her magic whatsoever. "Oh, bugger," she muttered. Little help, girls?" The Pegasus was black and rotten like all the others, but still retained some distinct features. Its body was noticeably less decayed. None of its limbs were missing, and only one of its eyes had that bright red glow. The other was still there, though it was reddened and corroded with traces of green and black left over from the pupil still visible. It swung its other metallic ring in a wide arc and slammed it hard into the other side of her protective bubble. Unlike the one before, it simply stuck to it as if her shield were nothing more than a sticky soup that it simply had to wade through to get to the duty prize in the centre. She straightened. She straightened to keep. I've lost my place. She straightened to keep her spell up, but could feel the barrier weakening as the pair of wings began to squeeze, attempting to pop the shield like the bubble it was. The strange Pegasus suddenly let up on the assault, just in time to avoid having its head smashed off by a wild flail from Applejack's stone tail, which slammed it instead into TikTok's barrier, shattering it and knocking her off her feet. Rarity was quick to get into a defensive position over her as Applejack attempted to push the Pegasus away. "Are you alright, dear?" Rarity asked quickly. "Yeah, I'm all... Oh, bugger!" TikTok exclaimed. The shout was brought on as the Pegasus disengaged itself from Applejack, leaving several of the other creatures to leap upon her in its place, and took a streaking dive straight at Rarity and TikTok instead. Rarity hastily attempted to defend the two of them, but struggled to work a proper barrier. The Pegasus, to their surprise, did not swing its metal wing at her, as TikTok had feared it would, when she found herself fumbling to fire a defensive bolt, but instead rammed into her at top speed and knocked her away. Then it turned its attention back to TikTok, swinging a wing down like an axe at the at the spot she'd been on the ground, had she not rolled away in panic. The thing did not relent. TikTok fired a bolt to drive it off, but it brought a wing to bear, blocking her magic as if with a shield and walking towards her with a focused intent. TikTok swore as the thing took a flying leap at her, barely ducking in time to avoid a wide cleaving motion from its other wing. She attempted to run out from under it, but the thing leapt up upon her and wrestled her to the ground. Pardon me. Pinned her down and held cracked and pointed off to her throat. She looked up and to her horror she could see the abomination's face clearly. It was smiling. It leaned into her ear and spoke to her in a voice that echoed deep, but was distinctly recognizable. She paled and tried to throw it off in panic. The Pegasus did not budge. It bore one of its great wings to bear, striking down at her, but was rammed hard in the side by Rainbow Dash before it could connect. A great gust of wind roared behind her, sending it flying uncharacteristically far for such a strike. Rarity came over and helped TikTok to her hooves, joined by Applejack. The creature regained its composure and simply stared at the tree of protective ponies around TikTok, and before Rainbow Dash could give chase, it quite literally melted into the red taint that covered the ground. We gotta get moving, Applejack said quickly. Twilight's gonna get too far ahead if we waste more time. Suddenly Pinkie Pie ran past them, dressed as she had been that morning and carrying a massive sword. Woo! Pinkie? Rainbow blurted. Get back here, ninja! Another Pinkie called after the first, this one wearing new clothes that she'd only recently changed into. The first sped off and disappeared into nothing, just as quickly as she had come, leaving the second Pinkie to angrily slam her hooves angrily in the ground. Fudge! She noticed that the others were looking at her funny. Hey guys, what'd I miss? What just happened? Applejack blinked, then shook her head. Never mind. Come on, no time to explain. We need to move. They moved as quick as they could to catch up to Twilight, Rainbow Dash taking the rear and combining the lightning trail with great loops to buck bolts of lightning at pursuers so that they could focus entirely on moving forward, or rather so that Applejack could focus on clearing a path through anything that attempted to come in from the front. It wasn't long before they caught the sight of the silvery wolf that was opening them, and even now they could see Twilight hurriedly blasting a path through to the ever closer barrier. After only a few more moments they reached the edge of the barrier and their salvation. Everybody waded through it as quickly as they could manage. They kept running and running until at last Applejack, who was bringing up the rear, chanced to glance behind her and saw that there was nothing behind them but the great expanse of wasteland and the towering shield in the distance. None of the creatures had come through the barrier with them. They were in the clear. It allowed them to make a very hasty camp somewhat nearby, so that Twilight could properly examine Lockwood, who first set upon the ground as gently as he could. Her horn glowed bright as she attempted to work her magic again, Fluttershy desperately clinging to him, and trying best not to look over his side at the wound. "Oh, Lockwood," she sniffed, holding him tight against her. "You know, aside from the burning sensation, this really ain't so bad," he said warily. "That and the blood loss is making me feel lightheaded." A tearing sound was heard, and Rarity stepped up to Twilight, a full half of her dress carried by her magic. "Oh, Rarity, your dress?" Lockwood started. "Twilight, darling, we need to do something about that," Rarity said bluntly. Twilight nodded and used her magic to warp the dress fabric into the shape needed to bandage Lockwood's wound. The blood soaked into the silky material instantly. "This is bad," Twilight sighed. "I don't know how to say this, but I don't think I can help." "What do you mean?" Fluff asked worriedly. "Give it to me straight, Doc," Lockwood said calmly. "Well, the good news is that the attack didn't strike any vital organs or anything, but there's a lot of blood," and she trailed off. She shook her head and continued. I'm trying to use all the restomancy spells I know, but nothing's having any lasting effect. The wound isn't sealing up like it's supposed to. It's like there's something blocking my magic, and whatever it is, it's not pleasant. I'd say it's likely dark magics at their best. So what's the problem? Why can't you get it to work? Rainbow asked. Remember when we all first met Zecora, and I told you all I didn't believe in curses? Well, yeah, there's that. Even after meeting her and going through all that poison and joke nonsense, I still didn't really believe in curses. Zecora's magic is biomancy, I suppose, but this is very, very real. I've seen enough strange things in this world that I wouldn't doubt if curses were real here at all. And unfortunately, I have no idea how curses work. Well, come on, twat, Applejack insisted. Use that fancy magic of yours to make that thing cooperate with you, like decurse it or whatever. That's probably not the best idea, Twilight sighed. Whatever is keeping me from healing him is exceptionally malevolent magic, and, like I said, I don't know how they work. If I try to force it, it might do more harm than good. And with how large the wound is, as it is, that might kill him outright. Since I don't recognise the magic that seems to be permeating through the wound. Whatever it is, I think we need some pony that's an actual expert on restomancy. Like a real doctor or something. Maybe some pony with knowledge of curses too. Well, that's useful to know, given that we're out in the middle of bucking nowhere. Fleur snorted. Lockwood said calmly, I know there are doctors at Hope's Point, good ones too. They have to be good. After all, if they're going to fix up ponies coming in from journeys like yours, like ours. Oh, that's a fat lot of help, Fleur huffed. That's what, another 3 days away? Yeah, that puts my mind at ease. And of course we can't somehow get you into the city either. Well, with all us being wanted criminals, thanks to the whole gate thing. Damn it! Hey, relax, buddy. Twilight did her best. Lockwood said. Twilight, it's going to be okay, right? Twilight got a sullen look all of a sudden and shook her head. We need to hurry to Hope's Point. 3 days might be too much. Fleur balked, his face white. No, you're not saying what I think you're saying. Lockwood pleaded. Fleur, just calm. Don't you tell me to calm down, Fleur snapped. Are you even listening to your careless Are you even listening, you careless idiot? You're dying! Lockwood remained silent for a moment, then said flatly, and? What does that matter? We just hustle ourselves to the coast, no big deal. No big deal? Fleur seethed. How the fuck are you so damn calm, even now? Well, I say it could be worse. Lockwood smiled. Don't you dare. Fleur glared. It could be raining. Fleur put a hoof to his face. For buck's sake. This prompted Fluttershy to wail, and to bury her face into Lockwood's neck. Oh, this is all my fault! Hey now, don't start blaming yourself, Lockwood said as sweetly as he could. I'm the idiot who didn't think not to try and wrestle with that crazed mutant zombie or whatever it was. I should have got you out of harm's way, not? Fluttershy was not at all put at ease about that, and bawled even louder. Lockwood sighed and tried to calm it down as best as he was able. Rarity frowned and tried to comfort the Pegasus as well, but Fluttershy's continued sobs were anything but reassuring. Well, guess that means we're gonna have to review our route then. Applejack sighed. We gotta make sure whatever route we're taking is as fast as we can manage. TikTok, where's your map? She asked as she turned towards Unicorn. TikTok did not respond. TikTok? The others looked in the Unicorn's direction to see her a little ways off, sitting in the dirt and shaking nervously, her face white and sweaty. Rarity was the first to approach it. TikTok, darling, whatever's the matter? She asked. That thing, she muttered. Oh, darling, that thing is nothing to be afraid of now. Rarity soothed, patting TikTok on the back. It's locked away in that barrier. It can't harm you now. What's got you so rattled about it? Didn't you all notice something strange about it? TikTok asked. Rarity hummed. Well, it certainly did have very odd wings, almost like they were made out of metal. Besides that? Whatever do you mean, darling? Yeah, that was the only thing really weird I noticed, Applejack added. TikTok flustered. He was coming after me. He didn't bother sticking around sticking around to deal with Applejack, and then it just knocked her to his side, and then it came straight for me. Well, yeah, okay, that's Applejack started. And it fought as if it knew what I was doing. Did you notice how the other ones were all easily distracted and had no real sense of self-preservation? They attacked whatever was closest. This thing came straight for me. I knew exactly what to do. Rarity nervously chuckled. Come now, you're just over... It smiled at me. TikTok spat. It talked. It talked. Applejack and Rarity blinked. What did it say? Twilight asked. Its voice, I recognised. She shuddered. It called me Chronomancer. It had to be that psychopath. If Fire had been white before, it paled in comparison to how pale he was now. You mean the one that TikTok nodded. Fire had to sit down. That twisted thing is a real monster now? Does that mean that the place is where they... He looked at a distant field of red and began to shake violently. No. Applejack looked at him with curiosity a moment, then looked at the field of death they had just come from. Suddenly she realised too, and turned back to him with a horror-struck look. The others nearby all noticed it as well and made the connection themselves, but no pony had the heart to stomach to say it out loud. Fleur pounded his hoof into the dirt. Damn it! Damn this whole fucking system! Applejack stepped up to him and tried to calm him down. Hey now, come on. They couldn't have just tossed her in there. Fleur snapped his head to look at her. His eyes reddened and filling with tears already. Don't you get it? The fucking city doesn't have any cemeteries. I never knew where they took the dead. I just knew we had any place to bury... I just knew we never had any place to bury any pony. I figured we used cremation or something. But this... If they'd done the heartless pieces of scum in here, maybe... Applejack frowned. I don't know what to say. Applejack, Fathom stood up and began to walk away. I need to be alone for a while. Lockwood needs a moment to rest anyway. Twilight hesitated to speak up, so glumly, take your time, but we should get moving soon. Who knows if whatever magic that's keeping me from healing Lockwood might turn him into one of those things? Fleur sneered. I'm about to let that happen. I just need a moment. Alone. He added, shooting a look at Applejack, who had just stepped forward. She was caught by surprise. Flat Earth, she pleaded. Don't you dare start with that crap, Flat said instantly, his voice frigid. I've tried to talk to you for days now, and you've ignored me, for no fucking reason at all. Don't you even try and start acting like you care now, when all you've done is give me that cold shoulder over what exactly? I don't know. But if you think I can just turn around and start acting nice again, you just forget it. Now if you'll excuse me. As he spoke, Applejack kept looking to interrupt, opening and closing her mouth in shock a few times. Even attempted to start sentences with soft, small voices that were all drowned out as he continued. When Flo finished, he spat on the ground beside him, and she took a defensive step back, wincing, almost as if the move against her had been a punch, and anything she started to say was lost. Applejack simply stood. She couldn't move, and so you could only watch numbly as the stallion walked away, leaving a visible trail of tears on the scarred earth in his wake. The blackened, rotting Pegasus flexed his metal wings in annoyance, shaking flecks of dirt and red gunk off himself like fleas from a dog. He'd been so close, but grown cocky and took the time to just let a tiny smidge of fear sink into the miserable little unicorn's very soul, so that when she died, her last moments would be spent in complete terror, and just revenge for the horrors he'd been put through due to her interference. He regretted not just ending it then and there, not just thrusting his misshapen hoof through her throat. He'd have enjoyed it too. hearing the gurgles of pain as the blood filled her mouth. But his pride had gotten the better of him, and he'd insisted upon some much-needed closure. The sun's searing pains made him very much afraid that he was going to more than just regret that mistake. The voice burned like an inferno in his brain. Shadow Step, I do hope that this is not going to become a habit of yours. My lord, forgive me, he said in a defensive tone, his voice reverberating due to the instability of dark magics making up the majority of what was left of his voice box. I apologize for my ineptitude. I was overconfident. I expected to be able to handle the Chronomancer and her allies, but... Yes, I saw. Don't worry yourself. You were rather outmatched through no fault of your own. Silvertongue's voice echoed through his head, displeased but seemingly not at him in particular. I'm not completely surprised at this turn of events, and I do not take pleasure in learning about it. It stands that they should have the same sort of miraculous powers that their counterparts do. A shame for them that they do, too. They will be caught quite unawares. But that is of little concern of mine. It is most curious that those elements of harmony managed to discern a method of unlocking their inner potential. I wonder what they found in the ruins of the foolish Gryphons. There can't have been anything of importance left to... no matter. Shadow Step, it would seem that there needs to be a slight modification in your tactics if you are to accomplish your assignment. Assignments? As in plural? My lord, I thought my only mission was to eliminate the Chronomancer. Things have changed recently, and I haven't had the time to give you a full brief on the matters, but you'll know soon enough. I had hoped that my gifts to you would make you invincible against the disruptive Chronomancer and their friends, but it would seem that is no longer the case. Still, your wings are very much still a substantial power against them, and your lack of mortal needs makes you a threat they cannot ignore. You feel pain when I say you do. A fact that Silvertongue reminded the Pegasus of, sending a sharp burning sensation through his entire body. But if they are so gifted, a frontal assault would be foolhardy and futile. Even if you did kill that infernal wretch, I'd lose a very valuable asset in the process, one that I cannot afford losing at this point in time. You may have to be more stealthy. A pleasure, my lord. Shadowstep smiled. It seems a long time since I've been able to appropriately utilize my talents. I'm not as cut for direct combat as I'd hoped. However, I think it's time I informed you of the second task I had in mind for you. My lord servant, Silvertongue said with almost mocking appraise. It would appear that there has been a development in regards to those other servants of mine, one that requires immediate attention. The elements of discord seem to need a little more motivation to keep themselves in line, but until I am certain what is causing this situation, I do not wish to act upon impulse. It's imperative that those 6 mayors are able to keep Twilight Sparkle and her gang occupied until other matters are attended to. I cannot risk them failing in their efforts, or having doubts about their possible success, or worse, developing pesky morals. I believe I see where you're going with this, my lord. Shadowstep nodded, still used to the gesture despite there being no Brony around to see it. You want I should motivate them? Silvertongue's voice let out a great laugh. Ha! You may be confident in yourself against the Chronomancer and her allies now that you know what you are capable of, but I warn you, Starlight Shadow and her allies are not quite so hesitant to unleash their powers against a threat. They only practice restraint against because I ask them to. And naturally I can't let them know about you. I simply need you to observe them. Your eyes are my eyes, your ears are my ears, your voice mine, and very will stems from me. I need assurance that you will continue to accomplish the task I have set for them without hesitation, or that at the very least make continued attempts to do so, as long as necessary. Am I clear? Crystal clear, my lord, Shadowstep said confidently. Objective 1. Observe Starlight Shadow and her associates, and ensure they remain on task. Objective 2. If given the opportunity, eliminate the Chronomancer. Does that sound about right, my lord? Silvertongue laughed again. That is why you're my best servant, Shadowstep. See to it that this task is accomplished, and I may yet consider returning your mortality to you. Let that be your primary motivation, a reward. But should you wish to become a whole once again, you'd best remember that I own you. Your very existence is my doing. And while you likely do not fear your own destruction, I do know that your mind fears. It will not hesitate to let you wander in eternal torment, like all those other abominations, with no control, operating only on instinct. But completely aware that of what you are and what you are doing, with no escape. Right, of course, my lord. Shadowstep bowed deeply. I will not fail you. He felt a sensation of Silvertongue's presence leave him, though he could still sense that there was still a lingering spark of magic somewhere in his head, that he knew was his master's, watching his every action, keeping him in line. The pain was relentless, unignorable. Even thought, every action, every moment of his continued existence brought with it a searing burn through his eternally rotting body. A reminder that he'd failed already. But he took solace in one thing, had a purpose. Silvertongue's mind had touched with his, and he knew that his master had been up to over the past several days. Commander Jetstream, dead, snapped in half like a toy and devoured by the one known as Red Velvet. Dr. Bloodsilver, dead, his brain fried and insides burned, likely now rotting all the same in the blood mire, but not given the same benefit that Shadowstep was granted. He laughed a little at that. There was a distinct possibility that the good doctor had been destroyed in Twilight's group's attempts to escape, payback for something they didn't even know he did. Their lives had been ended when Lord Silvertongue had no further use for them. That's what his master did to things that were no longer useful. He discarded them, destroyed them, betrayed them. Shadowstep knew that as long as he made himself useful, he'd be able to retain some semblance of his existence, some modicum of himself. Silvertongue's threat had struck true. Shadowstep did not fear dying again, but he did not want to become a shambling monstrosity like all the other ponies that ended up here. He stepped forwards to the barrier and grinned broadly. Lord Silvertongue's protective shield did exactly what it intended to do. It kept the blood mire and its curse and its denizens in, and kept nosy ponies out. That his master had expected Twilight Sparkle's group to be able to enter at all was puzzling to him, but it was no concern of his. They certainly wouldn't be expecting anything from this horrible place to be chasing after them. Not when they'd seen other mindless monsters stop cold. The perks of being a servant of the one who made and maintained the force field included being able to travel through it at whim. As his rotted hoof passed through the shield and touched upon normal ground, his smile widened further. I'm coming for you, Chronomancer. He spoke aloud to himself, and when we meet again, they'll have to invent new words to describe what I'm going to do to you. Right, well that was chapter 20 of Crisis Equestria. And that was pretty intense. Pretty good chapter. I'm happy Fluttershy found her animal. And I quite like the wolf. Sort of like a calm yet protective creature. Which I think is quite nice. And everyone else is getting suited to their powers. And we had a sort of zombie apocalypse situation. So that was nice. And Pinky went all Resident Evil on it for some reason. Apart from the sword, I'm not sure what that is. I might have to look into that. Or Ganon can tell me in the comments, either way. But it's 1 hour and 48 minutes, which is not usually how long I go for. But thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, which was a heck of a lot. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Keep on spreading the magic of friendship, and I'll see you next time.